you right now are a very, very busy man.
Yes.
So logistically, how much time are you able to spend on both shows?
I've been more focused on Flash just because we're getting it off the ground. I'm still involved with Arrow, and still involved in coming up with the episodes and breaking the stories and making sure they're working emotionally and structurally. But a lot of the sort of day-to-day writing and day-to-day decision making I've ceded to other people, and it's I think the hardest thing about it had been emotionally, just for me, just because I've been thinking about nothing but Arrow for 2.5 years,
right.
And now to having to say, no, you guys make those decisions, you guys pick the casting, and it was harder on me emotionally than it actually was in practice, because we had the most amazing production staff, and Mark is obviously still there, and so many other people on the writing staff, people we've had since the very beginning, have really stepped up and really have just done amazing work this year. And I think that these first 5 episodes are as good as anything we've ever done.
Yeah. Well, so in Arrow season 1, it was very much kind of like the person of the week. He wanted to take off his list. How are you kind of structuring the Flash season 1? Is it going to be a similar like meta-human of the week, or are you kind of trying to be a little more flexible in how you tell the story?
For the beginning, we're sort of doing the meta-human of the week. I think in some ways the villains on Flash are a little more interesting than the ones on Arrow, just because of the abilities and the amazing different things that they can do. Arrow being as ground as it is, usually people either wanted revenge or money, and went about it in sort of normal ways, whether it was guns or whatnot. And we've had with Flash, getting to explore what happened to these villains and actually getting to know them a little bit better. Because in some ways they're all victims, because they've had this, so not everybody was sort of like an evil person who got superpowers.
Right.
A lot of them were just going about their lives when this terrible thing happened to them. And as much as Barry has taken his power and decided it can be used as a force for good, a lot of people have not, their powers are not nearly so benevolent. And whether they were in the right emotional space to begin with, or what happened to them subsequent to the explosion, a lot of them have found themselves in very dark and dangerous circumstances.
I am curious because if they are all experiencing these powers, etc., are there going to be instances where we see maybe 2 problems pop up at the same time that Barry has to deal with? Because you would think they wouldn't be all nice and take turns being bad. But at the same time, I understand.
Hey, don't pull at the thread of our show. I think one of the nice things that we sort of established even with Barry was that, having been in a coma for 9 months, that it didn't happen to everybody at exactly the same time, and some people have been similarly laid out. Some people have taken time for their powers to develop. Some people we're going to see the first time it really happened to them in a way that they'd been changed, but the ability or the moment to use whatever they had, whether it was accessing rage or anger or love or whatever it was, hadn't happened until these moments. The idea of two metahumans in one episode, that sounds expensive.
I mean, logistically, it could be a nightmare. And you would think you might put out the biggest fire first and then deal with the other fire off screen.
Yes. But that's one of the nice things about the show, is that not every crime in Central City is committed by somebody who's affected by the accelerator. I mean, there are, Captain Cold who's coming in, is just a guy who has access to some incredible technology. So, whereas some of the powers will be superpowers, some of the sort of the big effects are going to be the result of technology either being misused or technology run amok. And then there's just your garden variety jerks who carjack people and rob banks and especially in these early days when the red streak or the blur, or before people know him as the Flash, just know that there's this guardian angel out there running and helping people. They're going to meet up with some. They're gonna discover they've made some bad choices.